Good morning. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. Glad to have you. My name is Larry. Today I'm going to talk about how boomers are resilient just because of everything we've gone through in our life. Uh, and the reason I'm making this video, I've gotten several comments lately on how easy boomers had it, how easy we had it. And in some ways we probably did. But we've been through a lot. We've been through a lot. Some of the younger generations have never gone through, and hopefully they never will have to go through. But this is just a response thing. It got me thinking about all the things I've been through in my life. How many wars have we been through? Vietnam War. A lot of people watching this channel probably served, and I thank you for your service. I never did. I was in college when they canceled the draft, although I was headed that direction. I just figured at 6'7", I was a little bit too big of a target, so I would have gone if they'd called my number, but they didn't, so I didn't. We went through the Cuban Missile Crisis. A lot of people watching this channel will remember in elementary school, we had drills of climbing under our desk in case of a nuclear attack. We didn't know what to do, but it put the fear of God into everybody at that point because we didn't know what was going on. But we lived through that. Of course, everybody lived through the Afghanistan, Iraq wars, if you want to call them a war. They actually weren't classified as a war, but they were wars nonetheless. Lots of people died. And we also lived through the 9/11 terrorist attack, which a lot of younger people have never gone through, and I hope they never do again. We learned a lot from those. But we've been through a lot of wars, and how it changed the landscape of America. One big thing we went through was the civil rights movement. I was just a young teenager at the time. We had the protests. We had a lot of riots. It was just, to be honest with you, it was just a very ugly time in American history. But we got through it. We definitely got through it. We had, in association with that, along the same lines, we had the assassination of a president. Anybody here watching this channel can probably remember where they were when they got the news that the president was assassinated. Hopefully that will never happen again. But it's been tried. It's been tried twice with our current president. We went through RFK was assassinated. Martin Luther King was assassinated just because of his beliefs. So we've been through a lot. I know we've had some recent things lately happen, but I don't understand it. But we've been through a lot, and we've had to deal with it. We had a sitting president in my lifetime, a sitting president when I was voting, that got on national television. He was under scrutiny for this thing called Watergate scandal. But he got on television and said, "I am not a crook." Well, a few days later, guess what? He resigned. That's something we all had to deal with. It changed everything. I wonder what would happen if something like that happened today. Now, with social media, it would happen in an instant. Everybody would have 10,000 different opinions on it. But I think you'd see some riots today. Here's a big one. This affected everybody that was alive, man. That's a oil embargo of the early 70s. People today complain about gas prices and so on. But I'll tell you what, you couldn't even get gas. If you got gas, it was 4 times the price. And then you had to wait in line. To be honest with you, this really never affected me that much. I was in college and I was married at the time. We didn't go back and forth to home, but we had a little Volkswagen that would get us home and back. It was about a 2-hour trip each way. It'd get us home and back and on a tank of gas, so we were okay because we had buses on campus, so we both did okay on that. But it affected a lot of things. What would happen today if overnight you couldn't get gas? Can you imagine the uproar? What'd we do? We just dealt with it. We dealt with it the best way we can. In the comments, I'd like to hear how you guys handle some of these situations, what some of your memories are on some of these things. In the early 80s, I can remember this very distinctly. 14% interest rates on home loans. People complain about people complain about 6 or 7% interest rates. How about 14%? I was already a homeowner by now, before that hit, but I did buy my first piece of rental property and the interest rate was 14%. Now, it did cash flow, just barely, but it did cash flow. I pulled some money out of pocket to do any repairs and so forth. But I bought my first rental property at 14%. That would be unheard of today. There wouldn't be a house that would sell today unless the prices dropped. But back then, because of that, we were in a huge recession. Millions of jobs lost because of it. It was bad. It was hard. A lot of people got hurt on that one. And we all lived through this. The recession of 2007, 2008, house prices, including a few of my rentals, the few rentals that I had, they dropped 20, 30%, literally overnight. Literally overnight. I'll never forget, I was flipping a property at the time, right before it hit. I was flipping one. And I sold it. Did a smart thing this time. I sold this one. And I made a little bit of money. I made about $15,000, $16,000 on it, I guess. Of course, that's been a long time ago. Made $15,000, $16,000 on it. But if I'd have waited another 2 weeks, I wouldn't have been able to sell it. I would have had to rent because the prices dropped so much. At the same time, I was heavily invested in mutual funds in the stock market, and it dropped. I had one mutual fund. It was at $30, $32, something like that a share, and it dropped to $9 this year. 8 or 9. It was single digits. I about cried. I mean, literally within a week or two period. Now, did I panic on this? No, I did not panic. I just held on to it. I didn't have to have the money, so I just held on to it. However, when it did go back up a few years later to around 30, that's when I sold it and paid off a lot of debt. So I didn't get hurt by that too much, but it did. It hurt. It hurt a lot of people. Of course, we all lived through the pandemic of 2020. It changed everybody and the way we look at things literally overnight, within a month's time. I'll never forget going to the grocery store once we eventually ventured out after a few days of everything being shut down, and it was scary. We didn't really need anything because, probably like a lot of you, we always had things on hand to last us a month or two, and it wasn't that big a deal. But the fear in people's eyes, I've never seen such fear. They would avoid you. They would not get close to you. It was terrible. It was ugly. We quit going only if we absolutely needed something after that. But that changed everybody. Now, one thing about it, during that time, I just kept working. I kept working. I was considered an essential part of the economy, so I kept working very carefully, I might add, because nobody knew what was going on, but I kept working. We, those around my age, we've experienced several environmental disasters that we haven't had in any time in recent years. We had 3 Mile Island. We had Chernobyl, which changed the landscape of nuclear energy throughout the world. We had the Exxon Valdez, and that disaster. You know, a lot of younger people just don't realize what we went through as far as these things and how it changed things. And here's one for you, and I'm sure a lot of you remember this one. If you're living west of the Mississippi, in America, we had the blizzard of 78 and 79. It was horrible. I mean, I hope and pray that I will never have to go through that again. It was horrible. We had just bought our first house, and it was just, we had 3 or 4 feet of snow, down around zero. This went on for a few weeks, I believe. I mean, the world just literally shut down, up and down the East Coast, New York City, Philadelphia, all the big cities. They were disaster areas. Nobody could go. You couldn't get anywhere. We were at home with a newborn. My wife was at home with a newborn. Now, I worked in a manufacturing plant about 3 miles from there. You know what I did? They cleared the streets a little. You couldn't drive a car, but they kind of made a path. I walked to work. I had bills. I had money. I mean, I didn't have money. I had bills. I had a baby at home. I walked to work for 4 or 5 days there until I could shovel out my car. People today, they wouldn't do anything like that, I don't think, especially young people. So, but we lived through it, we got through it, and we learned a lot from it. And if it happens again, I'll stay snug as a bug in a rug at my home because I'm prepared for such things these days. We've also witnessed the rise and fall of manufacturing in the United States. As a young man, we were not a consumer society like we are now. 70% of our GDP came from manufacturing. We made stuff. Today, that's 30%. 30%. We don't make stuff anymore. Although we are getting a lot of jobs back now, which I'm thankful to see. A lot of other countries are starting to invest in America. So every time I hear the Boomer generation had it easy, these younger people, they don't have a clue. They really don't have a clue. We went through a lot, but do you know what the common denominator is? We adjusted, we adapted, we kept on going, we kept working. And I think that's the main thing. We just kept on plugging away because we didn't know what else to do, and that's all we could do at the time. I'm not sure some of the younger generations, if we had a major disaster like that, I'm not sure some of them would cope quite as well as we did. So pat yourselves on the back. We are a resilient generation, if nothing else, although we're old and somewhat feeble now, but we are a resilient generation. And if you got anything out of this, like, share, subscribe. Until we meet again, I'm going to continue to press on towards that goal.